Hi, read the recipe. Measuring your ingredients accurately is one of the most important aspects of cooking from a recipe. Like I said before, a recipe is literally just what are the ingredients, how much, and what to do with them. So the how much part makes up for a third of the equation. That's a lot. Understanding how to measure different types of ingredients and how those measurements relate to each other can make cooking less confusing and your results more yummy on more times. More consistent, that's what I was trying to say. You know what? Leave that in there. The people need to see that I mess up.
A lot.
Not a lot. Hey, read the recipe. Measuring. I bet never. 3 words in. Basic kitchen equipment. Just go back to where we started. Fudge! Sorry. You make me look stupid. I'm not just talking basics. I'm talking pre-basics. Welcome to Cooking 99. Ah! In this video, I'll go over the difference between measuring liquid and dry ingredients, measuring by volume versus by weight, and some common measurement conversions. When you're measuring a liquid, use a liquid measuring cup. That's almost all I have to say about that. Sure, the volume will be the same if you use a dry measuring cup, but it won't pour as easily and you have to fill it to the brim to be accurate. Make your life easier and use a liquid measuring cup to measure liquids. Measuring dry ingredients isn't so cut and dry. Who wrote that? Who wrote that? I said no puns! Sorry about that. I wrote that. Measuring dry ingredients usually just includes teaspoons, tablespoons, or fractions thereof, and dry measuring cups. By the way, I want to talk to the person who decided to call them teaspoons and tablespoons. Why 2 T words? They should be called big spoons and little spoons or something. When you're measuring dry ingredients, you can take the spoon or cup and scoop out the sugar or oats or cinnamon, and then either shake off the extra or use the back of a knife to scrape it off. If it says a rounded spoon, don't shake off the extra. If it says a scant spoon, don't fill it all the way up. There are 2 exceptions to this rule, flour and brown sugar. The reason is the density of these 2 ingredients is not consistent. Meaning, if you scoop it out of the bag 10 different times with the same measuring cup, you're still going to get 10 different amounts. I always measure flour by weight because it's so much faster and more accurate. But if you don't have a scale, take a spoon and scoop the flour out of the bag into your dry measuring cup. Do that until it's full, and then scrape it off at the end. For brown sugar, it's basically the opposite. Recipes usually call for packed brown sugar. That means you fill up your cup, press it down, and keep adding and pressing until the cup is full, and you can't press it down anymore. Measuring by weight might sound like the most complicated way to go, but it's actually probably the easiest and it's definitely the most accurate. All you need is a kitchen scale. You don't even need measuring cups. You can use whatever you have on hand, like a bowl or a cup or a slop bucket. I don't remember writing that. To measure an ingredient by weight, turn your scale on, place the bowl or cup on it, and then press 0 or tare. This is calibrating the scale to ignore the weight of the bowl, and once you press that button, the scale should say 0. From there, you might have to change the unit of measurement. The options usually include grams, pounds and ounces, fluid ounces, and milliliters. Not all recipes will give you measurements by weight, but you can look up volume to weight conversions online. Like if a recipe calls for a cup of all-purpose flour, I just Google how many grams are in a cup of all-purpose flour and then weigh out 120 grams. It didn't. It did not warm me up. I spilled my tea between takes. Sometimes a recipe will call for you to use a pinch or a dash of an ingredient. These measurements are purposefully imprecise because they're less than your smallest measuring spoon, which is 1/8 a teaspoon. And they want you to use your preferences to guide you. If it says a dash of hot sauce and you like things extra spicy, take liberties and add 2 or 3 dashes. Don't go overboard though, because it's usually an ingredient that people can add afterward at the table according to their taste. I use 2 fingers for a pinch, 3 or 4 fingers for a generous pinch, and when it says a dash, you just take the container of salt or soy sauce or whatever it is and shake it once or twice into the pot. There are a ton of measurement conversions that I could go over, but I'm going to stick to the more commonly used ones. By the way, if a recipe calls for a ton of something, you need 2,000 pounds of it. Okay, here goes. There are 3 tablespoons in a Dang it! See the T words! Okay, here goes. There are 3 tablespoons. Oh my god. Teaspoons. Teaspoons. There are 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. There are 4 tablespoons in a quarter cup. There are 2 cups in a pint. There are 4 cups, or 2 pints, in a quart. And there are 4 quarts in a gallon. Also, there are 8 fluid ounces in a cup, and there are 16 ounces in a pound. So with all this knowledge, you can figure out that there are 768 teaspoons in a gallon in case you need a gallon of apple cider and you only have a teaspoon measurer and an extra 2 hours on your hands. Fun fact, the human body is 95% water. My body is only 90% water though, and 5% crabbed Velveeta cheese. Clearly, I didn't write that. More commonly, you might find a recipe that calls for a half a tablespoon or a tablespoon and a half. Most measuring spoon sets don't include a half a tablespoon. So to get that exact amount, since there are 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon, a half a tablespoon is equal to 1.5 teaspoons. And you do have a teaspoon measure and a half teaspoon measure.
Takeaways.
There are 3 main takeaways from this video. 1, measuring dry ingredients and liquid ingredients is different, and most of the time using the right tool will save you some hassle. 2, measuring by volume and by weight is different. Measuring by weight is usually faster and more accurate, but you need a scale. And most recipes don't give you weight measurements, except for baking recipes. If you want to convert from weight to volume or volume to weight, you can look up those conversions online. And 3, all volumetric measurements, measuring by volume, relate to each other by simple ratios, and you can look those up online too. It's handy to memorize a lot of them, but the ones that come up most often for me are, there are 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon, and there are 4 tablespoons in a quarter cup. All right, read the recipe, bye. Thanks for sticking around. I don't need you to subscribe or smash that like button, but I do want to answer any questions you have, so please stick them in the comments section. We'll respond to as many as we can. We also plan on doing a Q&A at some point, so if a question gets brought up enough, we'll also stick the answer in that video. Please comment away.